Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Okay, here we are, Midlife Mentors, Season 2, Episode 3.
Where are we, James? Where are we?
We are at a service station on the French motorway, because we're on our way back to Ibiza, the epic journey.
It's very rock and roll, our life. It really is. So yeah, we're bringing it to you raw and live. It's not live for you, but live for us. And yeah, we've had quite a couple of months back in the UK. If anyone listened to last week's episode, we have been on our forest break now, otherwise known as Centre Parks, but James was too much of a snob to call it Centre Parks. You quite enjoyed it, didn't you?
Yes, I had fun. And I think for our non-UK listeners who might not be familiar with the Centre Parks concept, I don't know how to describe it really, like a spring break camp for small kids and adults. I don't know.
Anyone that has been to Centre Parks, just imagine, if you do know James, imagine his horror when he went on the rapids. The rapids, which were absolutely jam-packed full of screaming children.
They were very congested.
Yeah.
I shared intimate space with people unwillingly.
Amazing. Yeah, it was quite intimate. So today we are going to talk about nutrition myths. And the reason we're talking about this is because we spent time with my parents. Why are you laughing, James?
Well, I would say the reason we're talking about it is we were going to do this one anyway. And the reason Claire's saying is the true reason. The other reason was, of course, we were going to have an interview. But as part of our epic lives, we did a 400-mile round trip to London to do a face-to-face interview. And the recorder was all working fine. But then
apparently
nothing was on the memory card when we got back.
I blame James.
So that interview will be coming. But we're not going to jinx it by saying when, but it's still happening.
No, so you got us instead, I'm afraid. So, yeah, we basically spent the weekend with my lovely parents, my brother, my sister-in-law, nieces, and they were fascinated, I don't even think that's a strong word, fascinated by what we eat, how we eat, because we didn't kind of veer off that. We stuck to what we normally eat and the timing of what we eat. So we were like, actually, rather than assuming, sometimes when you do this profession, you assume that people know this stuff. But it's clear that not everyone does.
And there's loads and loads of myths and misconceptions out there, a lot fueled by mainstream media. And why is this particularly important at midlife? Well, as we age, the kind of eating things we could get away with when we were in our 20s and 30s, we're not going to get away with anymore. There's all kinds of like physiological changes, hormonal changes. We're more prone to holding on to fat. Our metabolisms will have slowed down if we're not following all the wonderful advice that we give you. But yeah, you can't get away with smashing in, a cheeseburger and birthday cake and thinking that it's not going to affect you down the line.
No, that's why this is so relevant to you guys out there listening, you midlifers. Yeah, so we basically just can't get away with what we did. So we thought it was really, really important, because what you're going to be doing, and if you're like everyone else, and including me, not as a midlifer, but certainly my late 20s, early 30s, I was always looking for the quick fix and the thing that was, gonna be the saviour for my body confidence and looking the way and feeling the way I wanted to. And it's even more difficult now because we're bombarded, like we were talking about in our episode last week. We're being bombarded with messages constantly. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's true. It's confusing. It's overwhelming.
A lot of it's conflicting as well. People do studies. Even that weekend when I was there, I read a thing about milled linseed. So we take linseed in our shake, and if you take it whole, there's not an issue because you swallow most of the seeds whole. But when it's crushed, it can convert to cyanide gas in the body.
Terrifying fact.
In Sweden, I think they're either putting warnings or they've banned it on the crushed linseeds, because if you have more than 3 teaspoons for an adult, that could be enough to make you feel quite unwell, apparently.
Apparently.
So there you go. There's an example. People say, "Oh, you should get your linseeds, get your omegas," and then it's if you eat too much of them, it will convert to cyanide gas in the body, which is obviously not what you want.
It's not what we want. So obviously, we want to give you this kind of debust some of these myths. And also just make sure good nutrition has been linked to so many benefits. Obviously, supporting the immune system, obviously avoiding diabetes, You've got a healthy metabolism.
Yeah, I think poor nutrition is a definite, causal links to certain types of cancer, particularly like high sugar diets as well.
Yeah.
About body goals, right? About looking and feeling great.
Also, we call us Generation Squeezed, say this all the time. We're under loads and loads of pressure and stress, particularly at this age. And actually, a good balanced nutrition diet is actually going to help reduce your stress levels. So that's why we're talking to you about it.
And that's something actually that came out. In all the conversations with Claire's family, they'd be like, explaining what we would eat. They're like, oh, but we don't have time, or that would take ages. We're like, well, actually, that thing is not any slower than that. In fact, it's probably faster. So again, there's a big myth or preconception that healthy options take longer, are more expensive, which are two massive myths in themselves that will bust.
And apparently I was really blunt, and I was like, well, if you want the results, you'll make the time. That's it. You don't find time, you make it for changes in your lifestyle. So shall we crack on, Mr.
Let's crack on with these myths. So stay tuned, we're going to talk you through them. First one. Fat is the enemy.
Myth number 1.
Okay, so this came out of research in the 70s and 80s. A lot of it sponsored by American Heart Foundation, but there's kind of thinking now that research was already predetermined to find saturated fats as the cause of heart disease. Now, too much saturated fat is bad for you. You don't want loads in your diet, but it's not as bad as we once thought. And small amount of saturated fat, so that's what you'll find in dairy meats, is fine. Also got our healthy fats, our unsaturated fats that we'd get from nuts, from seeds, from fish, which is our omega oils. And we want plenty of those in our diet. They do all kinds of wonderful things for us. They support our central nervous system. They support cell membrane fluidity. They actually help us metabolize our body fat. So, unfortunately, I think through the 80s and 90s, what was kind of hammered at us by the mainstream media and advertising was low fat. And we started to see low fat versions of everything.
I was brought up, my parents, God love them, and your parents, we have this conversation all the time. Everything was low fat versions of everything.
And at the time, the thinking was, it's like, oh, well, there's the full fat, there's the low fat. Fat is bad, so I better go the low fat version. So that's no one's fault. That's a logical assumption to make. But what these crafty food manufacturers found is if you take the fat out of food, you take away a lot of the flavour. So how do you get that back?
What do they put in, people?
Sugar. So if you look at a lot of low-fat versions of popular brands, and then look at the sugar content, you probably find that the low-fat version has a much higher sugar content than I won't say high-fat, the normal version.
Yeah, we're talking things like yogurts. All the low-fat yogurts and things like that, zero-fat yogurts, they are laden with sugar or aspartame, which is sugar replacement, artificial sweeteners. So, be careful about the sugar content, because actually, we all know sugar, well, you don't know this necessarily, sugar is more addictive than cocaine.
Interestingly, back when they did all this research, there was one researcher that started to think that actually, looking at the evidence in front of him, sugar was probably the main cause of a lot of the health issues, but that research was suppressed, and people are starting to come back to it now and go, well, actually, he was probably on the right track there.
And this is a huge reason that we've seen the rise in diabetes as well. So much sugar. We actually saw an article in the paper the other day about, 1995?
This is interesting.
This was fascinating, like what sugar content of our favourite brands.
Chocolate bars in the UK, they looked at them in 1992 and now, and like a whole raft of them, the sugar content have massively increased.
We're talking like 10% plus.
Now, why would that happen? Well, a few reasons. Number one, like our palates have grown more accustomed to sweeter food as we are getting pushed more and more sugar. Also, the food manufacturers know that sugar is really addictive. So the higher the sugar content, the more likely you are to crave more of it.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll say one more thing, then we'll move on to the next point. But Mum and Dad, if you're listening, bless you. You used to feed my brother and I can't believe it's not butter. But actually, it's just got so many chemicals in it. And actually, you're better off, I'm not saying a lot of it, but you're better off actually having pure butter than some of those chemical-laden alternatives. Like, I can't believe it's not butter, because...
So a lot of those, like margarine, butter alternatives, they're what we call trans fats. They're man-made fats. Our body basically has trouble metabolizing them.
Listen to this,
in some cases, it won't even recognise it, depending on how it's been altered molecularly, and it will wrap that trans fat molecule in a fat
Fat
molecule
cell.
to store it, to get rid of it later because it's not quite sure what it is.
Cellulite, ladies, cellulite.
Which is why people who have like a lot of fast food, you can sometimes see that what we call the impacted fat, that kind of like hard dimpled fat. That's all that kind of stuff going on. So message from there. Fat, you don't want loads of it in your diet. You definitely don't want trans fats, man-made fats, but in moderate amounts it's fine. And the unsaturated oily fish is great.
Avocados.
But don't be seduced by the low fat and end up eating high sugar instead. Worse for you.
Love that.
So there's myth one.
Nice summary,
Smashed.
matey. Carbohydrates are bad. Myth number 2. Carbohydrates, no carbs before marbs. Now, if you've listened to our Say No to Keto podcast in series 1, you'll know that we are massive advocates of carbohydrates at the right time and the right sources. No carbs in your diet. It's been proven through research. If you haven't listened, go back and listen to that one because it's pretty awesome, even if I say so myself. There's loads and loads of research that actually low carbohydrate diets can be incredibly dangerous.
Well, and increases your mortality risk significantly. So carbs are our preferred energy source as human beings. Like a lot of these myths, there's like a grain of truth in the grounding of why they came about. So the no carbs before marbs, everyone wants to avoid carbs. Carbs will tend to make you put on more fat if you're in a calorie surplus for your needs. But the reason for that is, like I said, it's the wrong kind of carbohydrates. In the Western diet, we tend to eat too many of the wrong kinds. So your carbohydrates should be coming from natural sources. So, small amounts of what we call like the high starchy, like potatoes and rice, but mainly like fresh leafy greens, fresh vegetables, small amounts of fresh fruit. Small
amount of root vegetables sometimes, but timed as well.
Yeah, and that should be around 50-55% of your diet. Why they've had a bad rep is it tends to be like 60 to 70% of the diet. So, and the wrong type, so overly processed. So loads of like breads, pastas,
white pasta,
stuff like that.
And also, what I was talking to my brother about the weekend is, like a lot of clients we see, they time these, they have them in the evening, so they don't get used up. So basically, the reason carbohydrate, they're basically sugars, and when they're unused, they store as fat. So if you have a really heavy, a high glycemic index carb meal in the evening, so we're talking about pasta, rice, all that sort of stuff, you're not burning it off. So you're just going to bed on it, and then in the morning, if you're not exercising, it's just sat there. What you want to do, like we do, we'll talk about this, is actually time your good carbohydrates in the morning, a small amount for lunchtime, and you're good to go. It's those really heavy carb meals in the evening. But carbs are not bad. They are essential for our concentration, for our brain function, energy levels.
Exactly. So the only time you want that advice that Claire just gave is brilliant for weight loss, which is probably or maintenance.
Yeah.
The only times you want carbs in the evening is if you're about to do some
Bulking.
sort of endurance event, or if you're looking to actually bulk up with muscle.
Yeah, no, it's important to say
but
that.
otherwise, keep the carbs dialed back.
They're about
later in the
2%, but yeah, absolutely. So, or men that are bulking.
So there we go. Carbs are not bad. Just make sure you're getting the right kind and around 50-55% of your diet.
Okay, this one is one of our favourites, I have to say, because everyone is now talking about protein.
Oh my goodness.
Protein is good. Protein is amazing, so much so that we've got protein Mars bars.
So,
we've got protein cereal. Protein must be good.
Listen, protein is awesome. We need it.
It's our favourite macro.
It's our favourite macro. It's essential for like regenerating your tissue, building new muscle, all that great stuff. But the food manufacturers, like low fat,
like a fad,
a couple of decades ago, have suddenly cottoned on to high protein. So you'll see now in the garages or the gas stations, as you call them in the US, high protein versions of the normal chocolate bars. So you got like a high protein Snickers, high protein Mars bar. Right, okay.
Guess what they've got more of?
Sugar. They have marginally more protein than the normal bar,
but way more sugar. Guys, honestly, and actually, it's really, I think this is always really helpful. So anything above 20 grams.
20. So you talk about NHS guidelines.
Yeah. It's 22, isn't it? 20 or 22.
22 grams is considered high sugar. Anything about 22
in
grams
100
per 100,
grams.
so 22% up is considered high
and
sugar.
We've seen loads of protein bars with more than that in, and cereal with more than that in, all claiming that they're going on this healthy bandwagon of protein fads, protein shakes. Oh, everyone's just going to be drawn to the protein, thinking it's healthy.
Yeah, if you're training a lot, it's good to get more protein in to support your body needs, but just don't be seduced by all these bars that are appearing now. okay, you might instinctively know like a Mars bar or a Snickers isn't going to be great, but even a lot of like the ones that are packaged to look healthy,
be careful,
still have really high sugar content.
Like they're called natural something, or they've got a little flower or a leaf on the front. They're using subliminal messaging to make you think it's healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about too many protein shakes. So again, everyone's pushing this message that protein is good. It is. However, a lot of people are substituting main meals. Can you remember like the shakes back in the 80s, the Slim Fast and everything? They were meal replacement shakes, okay? What we're seeing a lot at the moment is people having protein shakes as a meal substitute. The clue is in the name. Protein shakes are actually not called meal supplements. They're called...
No, they
are called meal supplements.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be a substitute for
They're
a
not
meal.
replacement. So you have these things, meal replacement therapy or meal replacement, you know, and you've got brands like Huel out there, which we'll come to in a minute. But anyway, when you buy protein powder, it's a supplement, which means it's meant to supplement your diet. It's meant to fit around the other meals you're having,
not substitute.
Be instead of.
Getting my S's mixed up.
Getting
my S's mixed up. I'm tired, guys. I'm so tired. I just had a lot of coffee. It should have kicked in by now, but it hasn't.
So, listen, the myth here, protein is good. Yes, it is. But don't be seduced by packaging that says high protein this, high protein that. Check the sugar content. Also, protein is not a substitute for a meal. You want a balanced diet. And the last point is,
I know,
it is possible to eat too much protein and actually do yourself some damage. So,
liver.
There's mixed research. We'd say you can tolerate and utilize between 30 and 40 grams of protein at a time. Some studies say up to 60. Jury's still a bit out on that, but say 40 grams at a time is good. Higher than that, you're just wasting it. But also, you don't want to overload it. And we see this a lot with people like bikini competitors.
Yes,
really smashing in the protein. So again, in the bodybuilding world, you'll see formulas like, you know, anything between 1 gram per pound of body weight up to 2.5 grams per pound of body weight, and sometimes even higher. The thing is, if you're just putting in a lot of protein, it does put a strain on your liver and kidneys. I've known women in the bikini,
like friends of mine, that have actually done these competitions and actually couldn't get on stage because just beforehand their liver and kidneys have failed from too much protein. One other thing on protein, again, this was some research that was done. A lot of people are having protein on top as well of their food, and you know they're actually they're putting on weight. So again, this is just a miseducation and miscommunication. You know, I'll talk about myself. I get my protein from my food sources. I have 1 scoop of protein extra a day, and I do a lot of exercise. I do a lot of weight training. I don't have a protein shake after every meal or every single time I exercise. It's just, it's not necessary. Unless you're bulking and you're a man and you're in a calorie surplus, you know, then by all means have extra protein. But don't be, as well as not using it as a substitute, don't be adding it into your diet and wondering why you're putting on weight.
Exactly. Listen, if you're looking to lose weight, you've got to be in a calorie deficit, and if your shakes are taking you into a calorie surplus, guess what?
Doesn't matter whether they're protein or not.
You're not going to lose weight.
So actually, that leads us handily on to the next myth. This creases us up.
So we see this all the time, and this is people claiming they're in a calorie deficit, consistent calorie deficit, but they're still putting on weight. And this can be they just don't know what's going on, or for some people they can blame their genetics, or they can blame medical treatments or hormonal changes.
And yes,
now
we're
not dismissing those. Those are valid points.
Yeah.
But listen, if you would take a medicine that lowers your metabolic rate, so our metabolic rate is not fixed, right, guys? If you listen to this, if your metabolic rate now is like you need 2,000 calories a day for what you're doing, but suddenly you decide you're going to be an adventure racer and you're going to like run 30k every day and do a bike ride, guess what? Your calorie needs increase. Your metabolic rate's going to go up because you're burning so many more calories. So your metabolic rate is not fixed. Some hormonal changes in the body, some medications will bring your metabolic rate down.
And they do, and it is really valid. I really want to say this because this speaks to, like, of my personal experience. You know, there is some research around antidepressants can actually lower your metabolic rate.
Totally.
And I was on those years, as you know my story, I'm sure you do. Years and years ago, I was on those, and I did notice a shift. So we're not poo-pooing the fact that these are valid reasons. Sorry, I just wanted to jump in and say that because you know. As we know, antidepressant usage is on the rise, and so if any of you are out there going, hang on a minute, we do understand, is what I'm trying to say.
No, we totally understand, and it is a completely valid reason. I think the point people miss is they're like, oh, this was my diet, then I start taking this medication, and now I'm putting on weight. Guess what? You're not more prone to putting on weight. Your metabolic rate has slowed, so you need to adjust your diet accordingly.
And as we get older,
or increase your exercise output. Remember that there's two sides of the energy equation. If you find you're putting on weight but you don't want to change your diet, move more, do more exercise.
And again, I liken this to the conversation we had with my lovely brother. My brother's got MS. He can't exercise like us healthy people can.
No.
So, you know, he's a middle-aged man. His calorie needs would, like every other man, would normally be a lot higher, but, you know, his are much, much lower because he has to adjust it for his lifestyle and what he can and can't do.
Yeah, and, you know, I know this one is a hard one to swallow for a lot of people. But if you think you're in a calorie deficit and you're still putting on weight, the chances are you are not in a calorie deficit, i.e. you are still consuming more calories than your metabolic rate needs you to consume.
Yeah.
And my challenge I throw out, if you think we're wrong, this challenge has been thrown out by other people, is like, find one research paper that will show people put in a calorie deficit consistently over time, put weight on. Does not happen.
You know, and that's again, this is kind of trial and error. You know, it's not a one size fits all. Again, that's very seductive with advertising and these. That's why we say a one size fits all approach doesn't work, because actually everyone's needs are so different, and it is a bit of trial and error. It is knowing what your body needs.
Yeah, listen, we tweak our diet all the time. We tweak our diet all the time.
Have to.
So we'll just, you know, we'll go through a phase where we're watching what we're eating pretty carefully and drinking, still keeping a healthy balance. We're in a phase where we don't care, but then we'll be like, oh, actually, you know what? I can see that in my body now. I can see that those 5 packs of pork scratchings a week plus 8 pints of bitter are not doing me any favours. I just need to wind that back for a while. And we're always tweaking our diet depending on you know, what our goals are and what we look like. So we know your metabolic rate is not constant. If you find you are still putting on weight, you know, play around with reducing your calories or increasing your exercise.
Reach out for help. We're always around. Another one is a diet works. Right. So, and supplements will make me skinny. We're going to link these two. So, diets work and supplements will make me skinny. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about
that.
If diets work, why do people do them over and over?
Yeah, this statistic, I love this. 90% of people. Well, I don't love it. Actually, that's really mean. It just is very reflective of how much diets do not work. 90% of people who lose weight on a diet put it all back on again. A lot of people put it on more, put more on and then some.
Yeah.
They do not work. And here's the reality check for you midlifers. The diet that you used to use and work, that used to kind of like make you feel better about yourself, got you results, it's going to work even less now in your midlife body.
My favourite stat is the best predictor of someone being overweight is the fact that they have dieted. If you've dieted, it's the best predictor that you'll be overweight. That shows how flawed the diet is. We get it, they're seductive, you know, it's lose this much by this time, but they're short-term, very short-term gain for long-term failure.
Well, here's the problem, right? They are so restrictive that you will swing the other way because you're human. It's not because you're bad and useless at diets. You will always swing in the opposite direction because you are being too restrictive with yourself. That then fuels a lack of self-esteem because your metabolic rate will slow down. Fact. It just will. Then when you eat again, because you can't sustain that kind of diet, because it's not in balance and you're boring and you don't go out and you can't socialise and all these things, you're going to put that weight back on again because your metabolic rate has slowed right down. And also, your self-esteem will be on the floor because you're going to keep beating yourself up thinking, oh, I look like that. It's the only way I can ever look like that, by doing these crazy diets, but I'm miserable. I'm useless. I can't do this. And then the vicious cycle starts all over again. You put weight on from the mental and physical sides and circumstances, and then you have to go for another diet, another diet, and another diet.
And linked to this is supplements, and again, we get it. It's just an easy way to go. It's a quick fix, but like we've
Skinny
pushed
teas,
so many of
keto
these
pills.
things now, like skinny coffee, blah blah blah. And again, it's seductive. It's like, oh, I don't have to really tweak anything. My diet. I don't have to exercise.
Yeah.
If I can take this supplement, I'll get thin.
If they seem too good to be true, it's because they are.
And I'd say also linked into that, just bring it all together, it's the thing about exercise. You know, if you want to lose your weight or your fat just by dieting, it's really not the way to go, because
It's not people.
having a healthy body, mind, spirit, emotions is about addressing the whole. And you know, you get so many benefits from moving your body as well. Heart health, bone density, muscle strength.
Stress relief.
Yeah.
So just doing it from the diet, there's another myth. I'll be healthy if I lose weight. No, you won't. You'll be healthy if you lose weight, yes, through exercise and good nutrition.
And newsflash, that might actually mean that you don't lose weight. You might stay static or even get heavier. Because what might happen is
You'll put on
you
muscle.
drop off body fat, but you add lean muscle. Guess what? Metabolic rate is higher. You can eat more food because your metabolic rate is higher. But even though you're heavier, in inverted commas, you look and feel better because you've added muscle, taken away fat.
Absolutely. So it's about the inside out approach, people. Make sure you've got good heart health, good bone density. You're releasing stress. That's why we're all about creating a calorie deficit if you're looking to lose weight, through looking at your nutrition and moving your body. Because we're grateful and gifted, most of us, with our health, and our health is our wealth. So make sure it's internal as well. So,
should we talk about our day?
I was about to say that, Mr. D.
Because this was a source of fascination, and always is when we're training with clients. We're always like, well, what do you eat? What do you eat? So we will generally get up, have a cup of strong black coffee. Because we struggle to get going in the morning. But also caffeine. Caffeine does play a role in waking up the body. It will help release fat to the mitochondria that when you exercise, it will then oxidize, i.e. burn it off. So it gives us an energy boost and helps us train. So we'll have black coffee. We'll do our fasted HIIT, 15, 20 minutes. Basically, that helps us manage our body composition.
Absolutely.
And then we have our
This was a game changer for me.
breakfast shake.
I know I've said it before. It was a game changer for me, training fasted. What's in the shake?
What's in the shake?
No, come on, we need detail.
So the shake's our own concoction. We basically get a big blender.
Looks disgusting.
Put about a scoop and a half of protein powder in, whey protein, a teaspoon of peanut butter.
Yum, yum.
Good quality peanut butter, healthy fats there. So we've already got proteins
No
and
palm
fats,
oil, please, people.
which is going to trigger your leptin, make you feel full. We then add whatever supplements we like. So normally spirulina, because that's really high in antioxidants. Also a good protein source with minerals.
Berries.
We add some berries, small amounts. They've got sugars in, but they're also antioxidant. And the sugar at this point will actually be helpful to transport the protein to the muscles. We add then oats, which is our low GI carbohydrate source. Lots and lots of oats, and of course water goes in all this as well. Then we blend it up.
Breakfast, a really decent, hearty breakfast, full of protein, good fats.
Good fats and slow release carbohydrate, energy, and fibre from the oats as well. So we'll blend that up. It's a really thick, gloopy thing.
Honestly, my pet, everyone was like, "Oh my goodness," because we ate it at the weekend. They were like, "That looks disgusting." They tasted it. They wanted the recipe. They wanted the Davis recipe.
Really fills you up, and like I said, well, you won't get that normal hunger spike at 11:30. It keeps you going through till midday. Lunch.
So I'll be honest with you, sometimes I have carbohydrates at lunchtime, sometimes I don't. James always will, because he finds it difficult to put on muscle mass. I'm trying to maintain, so I won't have lots and lots of carbohydrate. So mine is normally, I like my ham and eggs, I like my prawns and avocado, I like my omelettes. What else do we normally have?
I like some salmon with some lentils or with some whole grain rice.
And sometimes I will.
Chicken, like a chicken breast, chicken fillets, stuff like that. So we're basically lean protein sources
to trigger the leptin.
And we'll have like salad with that as well. So we're getting our nutrients.
And my good fats from my avocado.
sometimes carbs for Claire, sometimes not. Always carbs for me at lunch, which will come from the lentils, from the rice, from beans, whatever.
Always honest. Then after that, I get a little bit of a sweet tooth, but I have 80% or over chocolate.
But a tiny square.
Tiny square with a little bit of peanut butter.
Yeah, and then dinner. Dinner would be similar. It'd be like a grilled salmon fillet, grilled chicken breast.
Or James does an amazing chicken peanut. Can you see peanut butter has a lot.
Yeah,
factors a lot in our life.
And
you need to be careful with that. You need to be careful
with a lot of stir fried or steamed or roasted vegetables. So like lots of vegetables, not really ever any of the root vegetables, more leafy greens, peppers, stuff like that, with a lean protein source again. Now, Claire won't have carbs in the evening. If I'm looking to bulk and I'm going to train next day, I'll have a small amount of, again, like whole grain rice, lentils, beans, something like that. That is pretty much what we eat. In between, if we're hungry, it'll be like a teaspoon of the good quality peanut butter.
Again.
I'll generally have 1 to 2 protein shakes through the day as well.
I won't have any of that.
With water.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hummus, I'll tell you another thing. If you've got like a little critter taste or like tiny little bit of hummus, but again, it's about portion control. So a lot of the time we see people having big bits of peanut butter or hummus and all that kind of stuff. So just make sure that your portions are relative to what you're trying to achieve.
Last point to say, having said all that, we also believe in balance. So, that would be our kind of like Monday to Thursday, if you like. Yeah. And then weekends will just be a bit free. And if we're out and you want like steak and chips, we'll have steak and chips.
And yes, we drink alcohol.
Life's about fun.
It is. 80% of the time, good. 20%, let's love life, live it, and eat what we want. Within reason.
I hope that we have busted some myths there for you.
Lots of information, overloads probably. If you've got any questions, we always mean this truly. Email us or drop us a message through Facebook. Yeah, anything.
We'd love to hear from you.
We're obsessive about this, so we'd love to help you. That's it from us, isn't it? So we don't know whether the guest will be next week. We hope it will, but keep your ears peeled for that. And again, thank you for all your support. You're continuously amazing, and it means the world to us. And that's it.
Yes. See you next time. Thank you very much.
We're going to journey on to Ibiza. We're sending you loads of love. Take care.
Bye. You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you, so drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors.
Yeah.